That's a given. But the question is, how are other Republicans going to react to that? Are they going to go along with that and support him in those efforts, or are they going to trust in democracy and invest in democracy going forward?
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful November the 6th, 2020. Ronald Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, we're doing good down here in Southern football, much better than what they're doing out there on the West Coast, which used to be the Pac-12. Now it's back down to the original Pac-8 with all these teams missing games. But I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. They never miss helping anyone.
They never miss. Bonjour all around the world. You can say bonjour. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. A lot of people are using Alexa. They're using Alexa and Google. I think Alexa's my friend, but I can't make it bring me a libation. That's the next thing we got to work on, Big C. It's always time to pause. Man, POTUS is pausing long, and we are. You ever hear someone pause for 4 days? You got to stop pausing, Big C, and just come out and give us his concession speech. But I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, somebody needs to get that man some Pepto-Bismol or some Trump. It seems like he's got an upset stomach. But I want to think about our American veterans, Charlton. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number throughout our shows because we lose some 24 veterans a day to suicide in this country. A very horrific number that seems our administration has turned its back on it just as well as it's turned its back on COVID-19. You think about it, since the election, the president and his administration hasn't mentioned nothing about COVID-19, and we're averaging almost 90,000 Americans a day, testing positive for COVID-19, and many of those, Charlton, are veterans. They're testing positive also. We're losing veterans to suicide. We're losing veterans to COVID. We need to help our veterans in any way that we can. Many of those veterans are destitute in many ways, mentally, physically, financially, Charlton. And they have turned to suicide, something that should not be tolerated in America. The greatest country in the world has the assets to help people. We give out the national suicide number, Charlton. We want that to become more of a concerted effort from all Americans to lend a hand and help our great veterans of the past.
I love what you say because people always say, oh, we should thank our veterans and we appreciate our military, but they never give out any way for them to get help. We do that all the time on the Big C Sports. So you can just call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255 and get them some help. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can help them get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, putting people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships are doing it, sports teams are doing it, and real estate can do it too. Let TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, simply go to Big C Sports, CWM.com. That's Big C Sports.PACWM.com. And what I've always learned, even especially watching the election and watching what's going on in the world of sports, almost everybody in the world, Big C, they use this thing called a telephone. if you have a telephone, open it up and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. You'll hear us pop up on iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and a lot of apps out there. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports and Spotify as well. Man, I want to get your thoughts on something. I listen to a lot of people who don't always see things the way I do, whether it's sports or politics or just life, Big C. But give me a feeling. You're down south. I'm here on the West Coast. A lot of things are going on. What's the climate still feel like? Are people nervous or are they optimistic, Big C? Your thoughts?
You know, people have gotten over nervousness, Charlton, a year ago. Right now it's about optimism. You have to sit there and let the system play out. And that's what intelligent people understand. You let the system play out. There's nothing you can do about it. The votes have been cast. It's just a matter of them being counted.
Yeah, and they're going to be cast and they're being counted. But isn't it ironic when black men, which I say are the vanguards of this country, the free labor was the number one thing that created white wealth, never really been addressed through reparations. But what is it about white men? And we know that Donald Trump is crooked. But there are so many white guys that will go to court to support a guy that's crooked. He even got 55% of the white suburban woman vote. The Me Too movement's been quiet, Big C. They've been so quiet I haven't heard from them. And he still got 55% of their vote. But what is it about Democratic counties, which is a code word for black cities, that people don't trust when they're taking the time to get it right, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, this is the reason why you've had voter suppression and voter obstruction for decades in America, and the fight against allowing minorities to vote in America, Charlton, because they knew that they would not vote with the mainstream, the people who have oppressed them.
Yeah.
And so they're bothered by that, but they also knew that these people were intelligent and could make salient decisions. And so that's what troubles them more than anything else, is that when these people of color vote, Charlton,
yeah,
you no longer can hold your thumb down and oppress them.
Yeah, it reminds me whether it's Frederick Douglass helped craft the Emancipation Proclamation with Abraham Lincoln doing his thing back in the day, or even if you go forward to Thurgood Marshall, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and even if I can say, I just want to give a lot of praise to a gentleman that was there when Dr. King lost his life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He did the Hope Coalition, Rainbow Coalition, and always talks about, always keep pushing forward, always keep hope alive. And I think about our great leaders, Big C, whether it's, Reverend Jesse Jackson, we had John Lewis passed on, they're all gone. But isn't it amazing that people think, oh, the Voting Rights Act, we got that passed through Lyndon Johnson. People have the right to vote now. What are they complaining about? The same thing that Dr. King was marching for, we're still in the courts today as if it never even happened, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the mentor for Dr. King and the guy who led the right for blacks to get to the point that they were is a man named John Wesley Dobbs,
yeah,
out of Atlanta. He taught all those civil rights activists and leaders how to mold themselves and go forward and help the rest of minorities in America.
Yeah.
But this is what I've always talked about, Charlton. There's racism in America. America is guided through racism. It was built on racism. Taking people to court over political issues is about racism. You're still trying to obstruct another part of society, the minority part of society, saying that they should not have the right to vote. They have to be doing something illegal if they're voting, that their vote is not the same as everybody else. You haven't seen one lawsuit brought against a red state, Charlton.
No.
They've all been brought against blue states.
Yeah.
That are normally Democratic states and have large minority content in those states. So this is about racism is pursuing. That's what it's all about. It's not politics.
Yeah.
It's going after one sector of the population.
Yeah, I've always thought, too, that race is always a factor in everything since 1619. But I'm telling you, from my opinion, African Americans want access to money. The banking system, the same way our white brethren have had it since 1619, when Lloyds of London insured the slave ships that brought Africans from the African continent, and they just finished paying that loan off in 2015. Election night should have been a great night. It should have been over, but politics runs its course, and people are doing their thing. Republicans, the Senate stonewalled President Obama for 8 years. In 2013, they gutted this voting rights bill. That's white senators, Big C, and they're blocking black votes today. And Trump's birtherism, is coming back to him with a lot of karma, Big C. 2016, Hillary Clinton, she won the popular vote. She lost the Electoral College, and she put the country first. Trump needs to concede. All of his Klan members needs to concede and stop inciting violence and stop being anti-democratic and having these frivolous lawsuits. And I still, again, ask our white brethren in the Senate to put our country first, or maybe they don't, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand, Charlton, that the Senate turned their back on Donald Trump voting night.
Yeah.
They have not stumped for him. Even the Republicans in the Senate, the legitimate Republicans, have not stumped for Donald Trump. They told him, hey, you got to go.
Yeah.
You know, as I told you before, he was just their puppet. Their agenda has been handled for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
He was the distraction for the last 4 years. They took care of what they wanted to take care of. They've handled that. Donald Trump was just a puppet on a string. And I don't know why people keep thinking that he was this almighty. It was the Senate that he covered for, allowing them to do their dirty work and change the face of America for the next 40 years, which is what they've done.
Yeah. Well, it's all fair in love and war. But I heard something. I heard it I think I just heard it last night or today. There's a guy by the name of Rush Limbaugh who's sick, and he's one of those proponents for getting rid of Obamacare, and the man has cancer. What a dumb butt. And now I hear Rush Limbaugh saying that he's the center of the radio universe. What do you think I heard that, Big C? They heard it from Big C Sports. So there they go again, plagiarizing, stealing the black mattress style of Big C. They've been trying to steal for a lot of years. They won't say that Big C Sports did it. They want their audience to think that a white man created it, and they just use the mantra, universe! And only we do that. Even CNN has been doing it, talking about the universe of voters, and they're trying to steal everything. Hopefully they won't try to steal the Big C burger. It comes with exotic meats, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. So, Big C, I want to get into the world of some NFL football, and before we go down Big C's picks for Week 9, I want to get Big C's thoughts. The 49ers, they fell to the Green Bay Packers last night in San Francisco, or at Santa Clara, 34-17. They had a lot of players that were just not able to play, not able to suit up. And now it looks like that Super Bowl hangover has hit Santa Clara. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, in looking at that game last night, I think the most egregious part of that game is when the officials threw a flag on the 49ers saying that they had 12 men on the field.
Yeah.
I don't think they had 12 men in uniform all night long.
Yeah.
This is a team that's been decimated.
Yeah.
They had nobody on offense that touched the ball in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs last year, just in February.
Yeah.
So COVID-19 plus injuries have made this team a shell of itself.
Yeah.
But it also showed how good Jimmy Garoppolo is at quarterback. He's 20-8 as a starter with the San Francisco 49ers. Nick Mullins had no clue last night how to answer that Green Bay defense, which has not been one of the best in the NFL. But they all look like all pros versus the 49ers last night. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams were their usual self. So when everybody was talking draft time, that Rodgers needed help at wide receiver, he needed a legitimate wide receiver.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams was one of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. And he showed it in prime time last night, Charlton.
Yeah, he showed it in prime time. The 49ers are now 4-5, have no clear shot at getting a top 10 pick. They currently project in the middle of the first round. We're looking at the Jets 0-8, the Vikings 2-5, Jaguars 1-6, the Texans are 1-6, the Falcons are 2-6, the Chargers are 2-5. They're a much better team than that. The Bengals are 2-5-1, the Patriots are 2-5, and the Carolina Panthers are 3-5. A lot of things have to change in the world of sports for the 49ers, but they'll have to lick their wounds and figure out how to move forward next year. I want to get into Big C's NFL Week 9 top picks, but for those of you who are going to watch football this weekend, make sure you enjoy it with the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and you can only get it at participating restaurants. Also, order the Budweiser Zero. It comes with 0 alcohol, and it tastes great, and it goes great with the Big C burger. Big C, I want to get into a game that everybody can't wait to see, especially if they have a kid on the team. The New York Giants, they're 1-7. They are at the Washington football team. I'm going to call them the Washington Red Tails that are 2-5. It's a Sunday 1 o'clock East Coast time kickoff on Fox Sports. And your friends at MGM have the Washington football team favorite by 2.5, Big C. You're buying it.
Well, you're talking about the overzealous NFC Eastern Conference, Charlton, where all those teams look like they're playoff bound. Just a joke. Looking for a high draft pick, what they are. This is one that's tough to call. I mean, when you look at the Giants, they actually outplayed the Buccaneers on Monday night, Charlton, and gave that game away in the end.
Yeah.
You wonder, will that same offense show up against this Washington football club?
Yeah.
But the Giants have showed signs of promise periodically with Daniel Jones, but his biggest problem, as he normally does, he has 2 turnovers every game.
Yeah.
And those 2 turnovers turn out to be the difference. We haven't seen Washington play for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Will Kyle Allen get another win? I mean, he started out, his first 2 games he had losses once he took over at the helm for the Washington football club.
Yeah.
But now he's had 2 weeks to settle in, Charlton, and that defense, will they be able to play up to all those first-round draft pick status?
Defensive end Montez Sweat and Chase Young, they should be doing their thing coming across the line. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, I want to go to a game that it should be or could be maybe the game of the week. The Baltimore Ravens, they are 5-2 at the Indianapolis Colts. They're also 5-2. In the eyeball test, you would think Baltimore's the better team, but they're going inside of a dome. It's a Sunday 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time on CBS Sports, and your friends from Las Vegas, they have the Ravens on the road by 1, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the eyeball test to me with the Ravens is that when they play a dominant team, that they're not that good. Indianapolis shows that they have the ability to move the ball offensively, pass and run. They dominated last week against the Detroit Lions, which is not as good a defense as Baltimore on paper. But Phillip Rivers has not been committing any turnovers as of late, and that makes that Indianapolis offense real strong. Lamar Jackson has struggled, Charlton. He has to put a boot in his own butt and get moving, because he has not been the Lamar Jackson that we saw last year as the league's MVP. Right now, he would not even get a vote or consideration the way he's been playing. And the 4 turnovers that he had last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers led to the demise of the Baltimore Ravens. I like Indianapolis in this game unless Lamar Jackson can throw for at least 250 yards.
And you got defensive tackles DeForest Buckner and also Grover Stewart. They got to keep their eye on stopping that ground game. It's going to be a great game in my opinion. Big C, another game that looks good on paper, but it might just be another blowout win. You have the Carolina Panthers. They're 3-5. They're going to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Them good old boys are 7-1. It's a Sunday 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time on Fox Sports, and your friends from the MGM have the Chiefs favorite by 10.5. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think they read the report like Mr. Mahomes read the report. The Carolina Panthers defense is giving up 69% completion ratio to their opposing quarterbacks. So that means that no one has a problem throwing against this team. I think Mr. Mahomes last week threw 5 touchdown passes. So he's licking his chops, maybe that steak with all that ketchup on it right now, thinking about that he gets a chance to play against the Panthers this weekend, Charlton. Teddy Bridgewater has been decent. He has not had consistency the past games. They've lost 3 consecutive games. There's been some talk about McCaffrey possibly being back in the lineup. I think that would only make fantasy team owners happy, because the Kansas City Chiefs won't worry about him at all. They get Sean Jones back at defensive tackle. He's passed COVID protocol. The Chiefs defense is going to be fully intact.
And then Eric Bieniemy, he needs to get a lot more credit if they can put up another, a double-point win back-to-back. Is almost unheard of in the world of the NFL, but he got them rolling, them good old boys over in Kansas City. The Bears, Chicago Bears, they are 5-3. They're at the Tennessee Titans, and boy, did this look like a great championship game matchup, Big C, a couple of weeks ago. The Titans have been sliding a little bit. I don't know if a Titan feels better when a Bear comes into the tent, Big C, but we're about to find out. It's a Sunday 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time on Fox Sports. And them good old boys from Las Vegas that you hang out with, they got the Titans favorite by 6.5. You're buying it, your thoughts?
Well, the Titans have lost 2 consecutive games, and so this is the time for Ryan Tannehill to realize that, he's the highest paid player on that team, that he needs to play that way. Derrick Henry's leading the league in rushing. I think he's averaging about 111 yards a game. He's going to have to run the ball well, Charlton, to slow down that Bears pass rush. Khalil Mack has 6 sacks coming in there. Hakeem Hicks, I believe, has a dozen quarterback hits already this season. So they're going to put a lot of pressure on that Titans offense if Ryan Tannehill plans on throwing that football.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when you look at Nick Foles, I mean, the only thing that Nick Foles does great is when he has an Eagles uniform on. He's a suspect quarterback when he has another color uniform on, Charlton. And he's been totally inconsistent since being inserted into the starting lineup over Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
But that's the only place they can go. Trubisky has a shoulder injury. Montgomery had an excellent game running the ball last week, but you got to get more consistency out of Nick Foles.
Yeah, and when your job is to stop Henry, it's going to be very difficult to get that done. Even if you're a Bear, maybe a Bear can stop Henry at Big C, but they don't let real Bears play on football stadiums. Should be a great defensive matchup. Also, another game that has maybe a chance to get somebody in the right momentum. You have the Denver Broncos that had a come-from-behind win against the LA Chargers. I still don't know how they did it. They're 3-4. They're on the road this time, going down into the heart of the state that's going to change the American election in Georgia. The Atlanta Falcons are 2-6. Big C is a Sunday, 1:00 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. The MGM, your friends, have the Falcons favored by 4. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Falcons can play offensive football with anybody in the NFL, Charlton. They've proven that they can put points on the scoreboard. The problem is their defense is like a sieve. Everything just leaks right through it and runs out in the end, and they just can't outscore people. But this is a team that they should be able to handle when you talk about the Denver Broncos. They showed that they have vulnerability on defense, giving up the pass. Justin Herbert had a great game against them last week. It's just it was typical Charger defense in giving up points. It's the same as Atlanta's defense. They give up points. Drew Lock, I mean, he's a mystery man when you talk about quarterbacks at Denver. He has an excellent young receiving core, but he's like a faucet at the sink. He's hot or cold. That's what it comes down to.
They got a lot of kitchen utensils they need. Arthur Blank owns Home Depot. I'm sure them good boys can go down and take care of that. Should be a good matchup. Also, a game that at the start of the season had a lot of promise, Big C. But you look at the Detroit Lions, they're 3-4. They're at the Minnesota Vikings, 2-5. And according to Donald Trump, you can't trust people from Detroit. I wonder why you can't trust people from Detroit, but you can trust people from New York City. It's all fair and love and war. The Lions 3-4 at the Minnesota Vikings. They're 2-5. You also cannot trust people from the state of Minnesota, Big C, from POTUS point of view. It's all fair and love and war. That game is going to be played on Sunday, 1:00 Eastern Time on CBS Sports. And your friends down at the MGM, they have the Vikings favored by 4. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering if they got your cousin at quarterback in Minnesota and taught him how to read. Read a book called Handoff. Handoff to the running back. Let Dalvin Cook cook. If they're doing that, the Minnesota Vikings will have an easy day with the Detroit Lions. Dalvin Cook is the engine that drives the Minnesota Vikings. When you look at the Detroit Lions, they potentially will be without Matthew Stafford this week, so they're suspect at quarterback. Their running game has been totally inconsistent. Matt Patricia is looking at possibly leaving Detroit at the end of this year and being unemployed.
It's all fair and love and war, Big C. Caldwell's looking pretty good now. He looks real good. 9 games in 1 season. They said you're fired. Donald Trump knows what that means. You're fired. Get out of town. Fire the SOBs. Doesn't that ring a bell, Big C? Fire the SOBs. Your thoughts?
Well, I wonder, will they use that terminology with him, because if Biden goes ahead and wins and gets the 270 electoral votes, Donald Trump has to be evicted. And, the government has people who will do that. You think about when people get removed from their home, it's somebody who shows up with guns. So he got to go.
And they got big guns.
Donald's going to be faced with that.
He's going to go kicking and screaming. His whole family may go to jail. They're going to be indicted by the Southern District of New York. They've got a lot of financial crimes that you can't hide behind the power of the president now. And he's going to have to feel like those black kids that he said sent them to the death penalty, the Central Park Five. He's going to see what they were feeling like when he was asking for them to have the death penalty. It's all fair and love and war, but karma can be, what did Jackie Gleason say? Karma is a bad something, blably, if that makes any sense to you, the late Jackie Gleason. Big C, I really don't go there because it's not a great game. And it should have been a great game. When you think about the talent on both of these squads, you have the Houston Texans. They're 1-6 on the season. They're at the Jacksonville Jaguars, also 1-6 on the season. They should be much better than that, Big C. It's a Sunday, 1 p.m. East Coast time kickoff on CBS Sports. Your friends down at the MGM, they have the Texans favored by 7, Big C. Your thoughts?
And this is a game that the Texans should surely win, Charlton. I know that they're in a rebuilding mode. They're trying to get their organization straight, but Jacksonville is without their quarterback, Gardner Minshew. He had the thumb surgery, and we saw what happened with Drew Brees last year when he was injured with the thumb. He was out 5 games. So I don't see Gardner Minshew able to play. They might going to play Mike Glennon, I think, at quarterback in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But he hasn't played really any meaningful football in 3 years in the NFL. So this should be easy pickings for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, the Texans got to feed running back David Johnson against one of the worst deep run defenses in the universe. You hear that Rush Limbaugh talking about he got the best radio program in the universe? He's never talked like that before until he tried to steal. He tried to steal from the black man instead of paying for it. Big C, it's all fair. It left a war. I'm going to tell you, here's a game, in my opinion, it may be the game of the week, and I got a lot of choices for game of the week because there's a lot of good games lined up. The Seattle Seahawks, they are flying across the country. They happen to be a good road team, of course, when you have Russell Houdini Wilson, Big C, and they are 6-1 on the season. They're at the Buffalo Bills that are kind of struggling, in my opinion. They're 6-2, but they're a bad-looking 6-2. It's a Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on Fox Sports. And your friends from the MGM, they have the Seahawks getting 3, Big C. Your thoughts? Here we go. Big C, I thought we had a call coming in from the White House. They were trying to bug the phone lines. I was talking about Rush Limbaugh, and they bugged the phone lines from their network. But it's all fair level war. We got it back together with the Big C Sports Network. Seattle Seahawks could be a game of the week. They're 6-1. They're traveling about 3,000 miles across the country, Big C. They're going to Buffalo, which is 6-2. But Buffalo's kind of struggling at 6-2. It's a Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time kickoff on Fox Sports. And your friends from the MGM, they have the Seahawks favored by 3, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Josh Allen was in the MVP talk, the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. He had thrown 12 touchdowns and only to 1 interception, Charlton. But in the last 4 games that he's played, he's thrown 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
So he's dropped off quite a bit since the first 4 games of the season. And also Buffalo has only gone 2-2 in those games.
Yeah.
So this is a desperate moment for the Buffalo Bills because they got the Miami Dolphins nipping at their heels. So they desperately need to be able to upset the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seattle Seahawks have a defense that's very vulnerable also.
Yeah.
They haven't had a great pass rush. Carlos Dunlap should get into this game. But when you look at Seattle, their running game is struggling right now.
Yeah.
And so they've been running back by committee. Russell Wilson has done all that could be expected from any quarterback on any team. 26 touchdown passes this year. Probably the best tandem of receivers in Lockett and Metcalf in the league. Olsen's not a bad tight end. But Russell Wilson needs to be on his game. He's got to have to score through the air this week.
Yeah, they need running back Chris Carson to do a little bit better than what New England did last week. I still like Seattle. They can barely beat New England at home. We'll see what happens. I still look at the Seahawks going to Buffalo and getting a good win. In fact, speaking of Seattle Seahawks and Buffalo Bills, order the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and it'd be great to have the Big C Burger when you're watching that game. Big C, I want to take you to another game that used to be the California North versus California South. The Las Vegas Raiders, they're 4-3. They're at the Los Angeles Chargers that are 2-5 down at SoFi Stadium. It's a Sunday, 4:05 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on Fox Sports. Your friends from the MGM, they have the Chargers getting 1 versus the Raiders. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that might be good in the first half, but they got to remember the Chargers don't play defense in the second half.
Yeah.
As well as Justin Herbert has played, averaging over 300 yards a game in the air as a rookie quarterback. That defense is giving up an equal amount of yards through the air on defense.
Yeah.
And so late in the game, seems like the Chargers defense are getting tired. Derek Carr, he's completing about 73% of his passes. He has a couple of outstanding receivers. They went on the road last week. He got a big win in Cleveland. Looking for them to duplicate that feat this week in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they got a good opportunity here. As you said earlier, the Chargers like to give up in the second half, but they did have a season-high 210 yards on the ground up at Denver. We'll see what happens. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and when we come back, we're going to finish up with Big C's thoughts on some NFL football. And we're going to say, don't fire those SOBs. We love our football, Big C. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout, and we didn't fire the SOBs. That's why we're still back, Big C. Did we make the SOBs list, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering what Donald Trump is thinking. He said he was elected to be president for 4 years.
Yeah.
Even after elected, his responsibility is to the United States to still govern, to still go out and attack this COVID-19, to still go out and assist the American citizens, Charlton, not sit around fighting against Joe Biden in court.
Yeah, it's all crazy. Using taxpayer money to go to court. He borrowed $500 from somebody. He said, I'll pay you back next month. It's all fair in love and war. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, I want to take you to a game that has two promising quarterbacks. And when you speak about it, you have the Miami Dolphins. They're flying across the country down into the desert, Big C. They're 4-3 on this season. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals that I think are red hot at this time of the year. It's a Sunday 4 p.m. kickoff East Coast time on CBS Sports. Your friends from Las Vegas, they say the Cardinals are favored by 4.5. Big C, your thoughts?
And I would take that 4.5. When you look at the way that Kyler Murray is playing quarterback, this is a tale of two different quarterbacks, left and right.
Yep.
Kyler Murray is a complete package with his arm and his legs. I mean, he throws one of the best balls in the NFL. You got DeAndre Hopkins out on the outside, David Johnson in the backfield. This team can do some damage offensively. The defense has gotten better. You saw that when they knocked off the Seattle Seahawks when they were undefeated. And they've had a bye week to rest up. Tua did not impress a lot of people in his opening game as an NFL starter.
No.
He passed for less than 100 yards. He had a touchdown pass. But the defense won that game against the Los Angeles Rams. They scored 2 touchdowns off defense, had a kick return, Johnson, also from their special teams. But they had a lackluster offensive performance of just 7 points. That's not going to get it done down in the desert against the Cardinals. I see the Cardinals winning by at least 14.
And Tua played at St. Louis High School, Honolulu, Hawaii, and went on to Alabama. And then your friend that's doing his thing, Kyler Murray, played at Allen High School in Texas, and then went on and did his thing at Oklahoma. But it's all fair and love and war. Them good old boys are in the NFL now. Man, you talk about a game that reminded me of 2 Super Bowls. And there was a tight end that dropped a pass in the Super Bowl that would have propelled the Cowboys to most likely knock off the Pittsburgh Steelers. Different teams, Big C. The Steelers, they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. Them good old boys are 7-0, Big C. They're traveling into Texas. They got to bring their own Gatorade. They should be fine. The Cowboys are 2-6 on the season. Jerry Jones is not coming down onto the field. This game is a 4:25 kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. And your friends from the MGM, they have the Steelers favored by 13.5. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think Jerry Jones petitioned the league for a running clock in this game, Charlton, because the Dallas Cowboys, that's the best chance that they can have is if the clock runs out early against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to be inept on offense. They don't know who they're going to start at quarterback. They're going to have a coin flip, not at midfield, but in the locker room to see who starts. At quarterback.
Roger Staubach.
There's some question marks about Ezekiel Elliott, who has a hamstring injury. I think Ezekiel's just tired of getting beat up, so he said he got a hamstring injury. The Dallas defense doesn't scare anybody but themselves. They didn't even dress up for Halloween. They just wore their uniforms out there.
Scaring the kids.
But, when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the only undefeated team left in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys can't stop the run.
Yeah.
They cannot.
Yeah.
The Steelers have Benny Snell and Connor at running back.
Yeah.
They will run all over this Dallas Cowboy defense. And that trio of young receivers that Big Ben has, and that dominant offensive line, Dallas is looking for an early Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's an early Thanksgiving. You don't even scare kids and you're walking down the street in a Cowboy uniform and they don't ask for an autograph. These things are not the days of the Ed Too Tall Jones and the Magudo boys from Texas. Looking at the Steelers going to 8-0, there would have to be some real shenanigans for this game not to cover Big C's all fair and love and war. Officially the game of the week, at least in the NFC, you have the New Orleans Saints. They are 5-2 on the season. They're going on the road down into Tampa, which is 6-2 on the season. Big C, you have Breeze versus Brady. Who's going to have the touchdown lead after this game? It's a Sunday 8:20 p.m. kickoff East Coast time on NBC Sports. And your friends from the MGM, they actually have the Buccaneers favored by 4, Big C. Are you buying it?
You know, in a way that I am. You got the NFL's 2 all-time leading touchdown passes. Brady has 561. Breeze has 560. So at the end of this game, Charlton, you'll have the NFL's all-time leading touchdown passes coming out of this game at the end, and he will win this game. But when you look at Breeze, Breeze is having a problem just throwing the ball, period. You know he's not going to go over the top, and he may not be able to get it underneath. He had a shoulder injury where he's missed 2 days of practice this week. And wouldn't it be ironic that they would play Jameis Winston in this game if he started going back into Tampa? But I would be a little perplexed about that because he might remember that he played in Tampa and keep throwing the ball to him. That's got him out of Tampa. But Tom Brady, you know, he was lucky to escape New York last week with the Giants. Where, you know, late in the game, Charlton came down to a 2-point conversion miss. His defense has to play much better in Tampa. If they have another offensive weapon and Antonio Brown to go along with Evans and Godwin, Charlton, and Fournette, who knows what type of explosive fireworks we'll see in the game.
You said that Jameis Winston might pull a J.R. Smith like he did when Cleveland was playing Golden State. That would be funny. Big Z, I hope we see that happen. That would be a funny thing, a funny story. That might be a prop bet. Will he throw a touchdown pass to the other team that he used to play for? It's all fair at Leavenworth. Big C, a game that I'm looking forward to not watching. Donald Trump, fire the SOBs. If he ever gets back into New York, that's what he'll say to the Jets. You have the New England Patriots. They are 2-5 on the season. I think they're going to get their 3rd win. They're at the New York Jets. They are 0-8 on the season. They even have Broadway Joe saying he wants to try out for the Jets quarterback, Big C. It's all fair and level more. That game is Monday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. kickoff East Coast time on ESPN's. And your friends from Las Vegas, the MGM, they're saying the Patriots are only getting 7.5 against a team that hasn't won a game since last year.
Well, Charlton, you think back-to-back weeks on Monday Night Football, 2 games that suck. You had the Cowboys and Eagles, now you got the Patriots and the Jets. I mean, what a horrific night for football fans. They have to sit up and go through that, Charlton. But you think about Cam Newton. In his last 3 games at quarterback, Charlton, he's only passed for 426 yards.
Wow.
426 yards and no touchdown. So when you talk about 2 inept offense getting together, and that young boy that they got in New York playing quarterback that came out of USC,
Sam Darnold.
I don't know if he can see what's going on the NFL field because he can't find an open receiver ever. So when you're looking at these 2 quarterbacks, Charlton, we would be lucky if we got 450 yards passing combined out of these quarterbacks, and either one of these teams might score a passing touchdown.
Yeah, you know, ironically, it's the SEC. Cam Newton went to Auburn versus the Pac-12, and Darnold went to USC. And we'll see. This time, I think the SEC will win this game. It's all fair and level more. But on a serious note, Big C, with Cam Newton, you know, the COVID protocol, a lot of teams got in trouble about that. The Raiders got in trouble about the COVID protocol. And people say, oh, they had COVID, let them quarantine 2 weeks, and put them right back out there. Do you see, and I'm not being flippant about it, would you even think that maybe Cam's still dealing with that because it affects people differently, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, 40% of the NFL teams have dealt with COVID. 40%. So Cam's not a loner in this. We've had players at every position that have tested positive for COVID-19 and come back out on the field. But Cam wasn't playing that great prior to COVID, Charlton. He only had 1 decent game, and that was in Seattle. You take that game away, Cam Newton would be on the bench. But that's the only thing that has kept him in the starting lineup. But Cam Newton's attitude as far as being aggressive has just not been there this year. The best I thought he played was against Buffalo when once again New England rushed for over 200 yards. But Cam Newton has to take the initiative to be more aggressive and speed up his play. I think that's what hinders Cam Newton more than anything else. I don't care how sick he got, but he just seems to be lackadaisical in getting to the line of scrimmage and getting the plays off.
Neither one of those guys want to have Donald Trump buying the team. Fire the SOBs! It's all fair and level war. That's Big C's thoughts on NFL football in Week 9. May everybody enjoy the Big C Burger. It comes with exotic meats, and it's a really tasty burger, and you can get it at participating restaurants. Also, order the Budweiser Zero. It comes with 0 alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C Burger. Big C, I want to run down to the world of college football. There's nothing to me like college football. A lot of good old boys, they love it. It's where if you're a coach, you love it because the players play for free. Kind of like a horse. At least a horse gets oats, Big C. What's a college football player get? Your thoughts?
Well, you ever go to the training table talking that they have? I mean, nowadays it's like going to a gourmet restaurant with these major universities as far as the nutrition program that they have for their players.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. They got to get back playing so they can get the TV money, but the players get nothing. Hopefully they'll at least get an education. I want to start tonight. There's a couple of good games for college football tonight. I want to get Big C's thoughts on what's going on. You want to watch some good football, you got to come to the West Coast. We have undefeated San Jose Spartans. They're 2-0. They're playing against the undefeated San Diego State Aztecs. They're 2-0. It's a 9 o'clock kickoff on CBS Sports Net. This kickoff is way too late. San Diego State is favored by 9.5. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, San Diego State was picked to win that conference out there this year, Charleston.
Yeah.
And San Jose State has been the surprise team in that conference at 2-0.
Yeah.
That's only 2 seasons worth of wins for them. So this is going to be quite an intriguing game tonight.
Wait a minute. They beat Arkansas last year. San Jose State did them thing against them Hogs, Big C, and they came back with a couple of pig's feet. It's all fair in Leavenworth Ward. The biggest game of the night that probably should have been played on Saturday is BYU, ranked number 9 in the country. They are 7-0, Big C. They're still an independent. They're at number 23, Boise State. That's 2-0. Remember, Boise State leads the whole country in the last 20 years as having winning seasons, Big C. BYU is favored on the blue turf by 3. Are you buying that one, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, I think this is the 2 best teams on the West Coast playing tonight. When you talk about BYU at 7-0 and Boise State at 2-0. The winner of this game tonight, Charleston, potentially be playing in a New Year's 6 bowl game. But if BYU goes undefeated, they may end up in the college football championship.
Yeah, I've rarely seen Boise lose at home, but they only have 2 games under the belt. In a team that has 7 games under the belt, maybe Vegas has a little bit more knowledge than I do. Somebody even told me it might be a blowout, if that makes sense to you. We'll see what happens. I want to go into Saturday, Big C. I love paying homage to our military. Air Force Academy, they are 1-2, and they're on the road at number 22. Army is actually 6-1. So Army only has 1 loss, so Donald Trump doesn't like them because they're a military school, Big C. There's 11 o'clock a.m. kickoff on CBS Sports, and Army's actually favored by 5.5, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that game has actually been canceled due to COVID-19.
Really? It's been canceled because... Well, POTUS did not give me the update on that one, Big C, so I'm going to stop getting my news from the White House, if that's fair. It's love and war. It's all good. Number 25, Michigan Wolverines. They fought really hard to get football back in the Big Ten. Under Jim Harbaugh, who's got it better than us? They are 1-1 in the season. They're at number 13, Indiana, which is 2-0. And Indiana did rock Penn State. I saw it with my own 2 eyes, Big C, if that makes sense to you. It's a noontime kickoff on Fox Sports 1. And Michigan's favored by 3. Are you buying that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, this is the first time that Indiana and Michigan has ever played, and Indiana's been ranked higher than Michigan in football.
Yeah.
So this is an intriguing matchup. Jim Harbaugh is on the hot seat in this game after getting beat up on last week at home by Michigan State when he was 24-point favorite. So I don't look at the line with Michigan. They have to go out and produce on the field.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a game that may have the Pac-12 champion come out of it. I'm telling you, Arizona State has a young quarterback, and they have Herm Edwards, who has the guys thinking, we play to win the game. I don't think they're going to win this game, but we'll find out. They're 0-0 on the season, so that means they haven't lost the game. They're playing at number 20, Southern California, which I think is ranked way too low. It's a noontime kickoff. The Pac-12 got it right. They kick off before people go to sleep, if that makes sense to you. It's USC's favorite on the grass at home by 10.5, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is an intriguing matchup in the Pac-12, a.k.a. Pac-8, because there's actually only 8 teams that are left in this conference for playoff contention. Ironically, after this game, it will only be 4, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this is a hard matchup to look at when you look at that. When you think about the young quarterbacks on both teams are starting true sophomores.
Yeah.
They're 2 of the top quarterbacks in the conference returning this year.
Yeah.
So it's about which receiving corps will be there to help their young quarterbacks out.
I'm telling you, Herm Edwards, they knocked off Oregon. They knocked Oregon out of playing potentially in the college football playoffs last year. Clay Helton if you can't beat them Sun Devils, if you can be careful when you got a white horse. Those Sun Devils, they don't go well with white horses, if that makes sense to you. Number 24, North Carolina, the Tar Heels. They are 4-2 on the season, and they're at Duke, which is only 2-5. That's a noontime kickoff on ESPN2. It's on grass. North Carolina's favorite by 11.5. Do you trust Mack Brown? He's already lost 2 games. Your thoughts?
Well, he's lost 2 of his last 3 games, Dalton, but against Duke and David Cutcliffe, North Carolina will get healthy.
They should get healthy. We have another big game in the Big 12, West Virginia. They're 4-2. They're on the road at Texas. Please bring your own Gatorade. Texas is 4-2. It's a noontime kickoff on ABC Sports, and Texas is favored by 6.5. From them good old boys from West Virginia, you would think they'd be favored by at least 9.5. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this game last year went into overtime, and West Virginia prevailed in this, so they had a good old shootout last year. The last week, Texas knocked off Oklahoma State, so there are no remaining unbeaten teams in the Big 12.
Yep.
This is a game that Texas and Sam Ehlinger should win, although Ehlinger had less than 200 yards passing last week against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, we got to work with the microphone, Big C. I know that POTUS is trying to bug the Big C Sports line. It's all fair in love and war, but he's not going to fire us SOBs, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair in love and war. The big game down in the South, you have number 5 Georgia. They're 4-1. They're playing number 8 Florida. They're 3-1. That game's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. I know that COVID's spiking. I kind of feel when I hear the games being played in Florida for college kids, but hey, they're playing the game anyway. It's a 3:30 kickoff East Coast time on CBS Sports. And Georgia's playing, and they're favored by 3.5 at a neutral site, but they are in Florida. Who you buying in that game, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm not buying the drinks because this is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
It's free.
So we know that the liquor will be flowing outside the stadium and
Yeah.
will speak inside the stadium. You look at Kyle Trask down in Florida, who's been having a phenomenal year. Their only loss has come to Texas A&M. When you look at Georgia, their only loss has come to Alabama.
Yep.
Georgia is a powerhouse running the football, which they have to control the ball on the ground and keep it out of Kyle Trask's hands.
Yep.
Because he's one of the nation's top touchdown throwers this year, Charlton. But this will be an old-fashioned snot knocker, and this is going to come down to probably the last possession of the game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in that game. Fresno State 1-1. They're at UNLV 0-2. That game's going to be down in Las Vegas. Fresno's getting 11 points on that one. We have another big game. Penn State, they're 0-2. Their home versus Maryland 1-1. And Happy Valley's not too happy lately. Penn State's favored by 25. They expect to get off the Snyder. Another game down on the West Coast. We were talking about Utah, Big C. Utah's a pretty, they're a decent program. They just need a bigger stadium. And they're bringing in Arizona. They're both just starting the first game of the season. And so that's going to be at Utah. It's a 3:30 kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports, actually ESPN2. And Utah's favored by 14. This is the same program. They've been knocking on the door when they won the Pac-12 South last year, in fact, the last 2 years, and then they get knocked off in the Pac-12 championship. A team from Arizona should not put up too much of a fight against them, Big C. Your thoughts?
They won't put up a fight at all, and they won't get knocked off because that game was canceled also today.
My goodness, I got to get off that COVID-19 hotline from the White House. Every time I call it, it says, da, 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 da. So it's all fair. 11 where I really feel for the Pac-12 program not being able to play. And I know it makes a lot of people sad, especially the coaches that get paid bonuses when they win. Number 12, Oklahoma State, 4-1. They're at Kansas State, Big C. They're 4-2. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time on Fox Sports. And Oklahoma State has to be a little bit sad because they lost their chance at playing in the playoffs, but they are favored by 12.5, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they were taken into overtime last week by Texas, and Texas was able to convert and win that game in overtime, Charlton. Kansas State has been somewhat of a mystery this year. They've lost to the teams that they should have beaten, Charlton, and beaten the big boys that they shouldn't have. So this could be an interesting game. Will Oklahoma State lose 2 consecutive games?
Yeah, well, probably not. They should be back and rebounding from last week's loss. Out here on the West Coast, we have Stanford starting their kickoff of the season. They're at number 14, Oregon, up at Austin Stadium. There's no crowd on hand. David Shaw's played Oregon well when they're at Stanford, not so much on the road. Oregon's favored by 7.5, Big C. You're buying the duck, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're starting a new quarterback, Charlton, so it's going to be interesting to see how this offense operates without Justin Herbert. Mario Cristobal, at head coach, he's been able to get some of the top recruits in the country.
Yep.
He has an outstanding offensive line, but David Shaw has always been a formidable opponent when he's come up there to Oregon. He's knocked them off when they've been number one in the country.
Yeah, he always does a good job coaching them. Big C, Rutgers is 1-1. They're at number 3, Ohio State. Will I see Ohio State ranked number 3 in the country? It just feels like that's too low. But again, how do you argue having Alabama and Clemson, the team that beat them last year, ahead of them? But Rutgers going to come back down to reality. 1-1 is a 7:30 kickoff on the Big Ten Network that you talk about. There is no line, but you would be nuts to bet against the Buckeyes. Fixing your thoughts.
Well, that's true. Rutgers knows that this is going to be a long day. Greg Schiano left the Buckeye team last year as the defensive coordinator to be the head coach at Rutgers once again.
Yeah.
He's going to wish that he had some of those players on his team because he's not going to be able to stop Ohio State.
No, they're going to run up and down like Woody Hayes was still coaching his all-fair Leavenworth. Final college football game, Big C. Want to get Big C's thoughts. Number 1, Clemson with DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback out of St. John Bosco High School in Bellflower, California. And they're playing against these good old boys from Notre Dame. And the Notre Dame is 6-0 in the season, ranked number 4 in the country. And the Ian Book came out of Oak Ridge High School in El Dorado Hills, California, up in the Sacramento area. So it's a California boys rematch, and it's a 7:30 kickoff on NBC Sports. It's on artificial surface, and Clemson's favorite by 5. This is a game where Notre Dame will bring out the horses or the Trojans or whatever they bring out, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a game that's more of a referendum on Coach Brian Kelly's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame has not beaten the number 1 ranked team in the country since 1993.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have their hands full against Clemson. Clemson can afford to lose this game, and they would still make the college football playoffs because these two teams most likely will meet in the ACC championship game.
Yep.
But this is a game where can Ian Book put up the big numbers against a top-ranked team? The Notre Dame quarterback.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame also has a solid running game, and that presented problems for Clemson last week against Boston College.
Yeah.
We're going to see what Uiagalelei can do in his second start at quarterback. But he has Travis Etienne to get him through any rough spots. But that Clemson defense can't have the hiccups that they had last week against Boston College.
Yeah, Etienne, in my opinion, is the best running back in college football. He's losing money every time he plays for Clemson, because he's better than most of the running backs in the NFL. That's my opinion. That's Big Steve's thoughts on college football, and may everybody stay healthy. Please stay healthy, at least establish protocol. I want to close out with some NFL talk and even a little bit about NBA starting up. If you think about the NFL, what they've done, the Las Vegas Raiders, Big C, they violated COVID-19 protocols. Your friend John Gruden, he had to pay out $150,000, and I think another friend of yours is Mark Davis. The NFL fined them, I think, $500,000 because they weren't taking COVID-19 serious. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, COVID-19 is not about not taking it serious, Charlton. It's running rampant through the NFL right now. The NFL also stripped them of a 6th-round draft pick.
Yep.
But as you look at COVID-19, 40% of the NFL has dealt with COVID-19 already. We're only halfway through the season, 40%. So they're telling you right now that potentially 100% of the NFL is going to have to deal with COVID-19.
Yeah.
But the NFL has turned its back on COVID-19 also because they are refusing to cancel games and keep players and personnel safe. Because we saw that last night with San Francisco. You're going to tell me that the rest of those players on the team didn't come into contact with the players who had COVID-19, Charlton? No. The NFL is right now, they're going to play the game. They're going to make their money.
Yeah.
So sitting there fining people saying that they're not following protocol, the NFL is not following protocol because it's all about the paycheck right now for the owners.
All about the paychecks. NFL owners, they have an unaffiliated coach in the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin. He's been fined $100,000 because I guess he wasn't wearing the mask all the time on the sideline when he's chewing out his defense. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, but like I said, this is what they're doing. They're sitting there watching all of this. In the NFL, you get fined for not having your socks up.
Yeah.
So they got the fine police sitting around trying to get people. But this is what all that is a distraction, Charlton, trying to take people's mind off of what the real problem is, COVID-19 in the NFL. So if you fine a few people, they're not going to talk about the players testing positive.
Yeah, everybody, washing our hands, social distancing, doing the best we can. And people say, well, COVID says COVID's not a big problem. A Missouri poll worker, she tests positive for COVID-19, and she still did her work shift. I think she tests positive on October 30th. And so she was told to self-quarantine and stay away for 2 weeks. It was actually in St. Charles County over in Missouri. And it was October 30th. She failed to isolate for the recommended 2 weeks that Dr. Fauci told everybody. And Dr. Fauci's been telling the truth. COVID said Dr. Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't trust science. And I think it was at Blanchett Park Memorial Hall polling site, and 1,858 voters cast ballots there. Well, Big C tragically passed away from COVID-19 the day after the election. And she didn't quarantine. She didn't take it serious. A lot of athletes think, oh, I'll just get it. Like POTUS said, oh, it'll just go away. And Big C, she passed away, and now they got to contact trace 1,800 people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's tragic that anybody loses their lives to COVID-19. But we had so much misinformation coming from the administration that has made COVID-19 a very dangerous and deadly pandemic here in America. And people who want to keep following the advice of the administration constantly put themselves and everybody they come in contact with health peril.
Yeah, it's a shame. And I thoughts and prayers with her family. She was trying to do her civic duty. And the irony behind that is a woman passed away trying to make sure that people could vote. And then POTUS says he doesn't trust democracy and that voting's corrupt. That voting's corrupt. And here's a lady died trying to make sure that people could vote. And he still got a large amount of the votes from the white population. Doesn't make any sense. Rob Manfred, Major League Baseball, Big C, he's a commissioner. So Justin Turner for the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers tests positive for COVID-19, and he ended up leaving the World Series Game 6 in this, I think it was the 8th inning. But they had found out, word had it, they had found out sooner than that. So he returns back to celebrate with his friends and teammates, and would you believe, the commissioner said he's not going to fine him. People have passed away from it. Coaches in the NFL being fined. Teams being fined $500,000. But Manfred said, Justin Turner, hey, you're Caucasian. I'm not going to do anything to you. But slap him on the wrist, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I addressed that, when it happened, Charlton, that he had been with the team for the entire series.
Yeah.
They knew that he tested positive in the second inning. They didn't advise to move him out of the game until the 8th inning. So that few minutes that he was around everybody at the end of the contest when they were celebrating, Charlton, was no different than any other time that he had been in the dugout with the players, and the league did not act on getting him out of the dugout. If you knew that he was in that situation that he tested positive, It wasn't like he had just been positive that day. He had been positive for several days, Charlton, during the series.
Yeah.
So the league walking away from this, I can understand it. Plus, he's a free agent. How are you going to find him?
How you going to find him?
He's unemployed.
Yeah, he's unemployed, but he'll find someone to sign him real soon. Last few minutes, NBA Players Association, the reps, they've approved a December 22nd start for a 72-game abbreviated regular season for NBA basketball. We just had the LA Lakers crown their 17th NBA championship, and now they're telling players you can tip off again for the holidays, December 22nd. I don't know if they're going to be in a bubble. I don't know if they're going to have them play in different parts of the country. But give me your thoughts on them starting up so soon. They just finished playing in a bubble, and they get outside of the bubble where they're exposed to COVID, and now they're going to say, let's play another game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, realistically, when you look at the time frame, it's really no difference in the time. The NBA normally gets 5 months off. They had 3 months off because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So they're still getting 3 months off from the championship to playing again.
Yeah. Well, I do hope that everybody has a lot of success because I want to see people stay healthy. I want to see people staying alert and just stay abreast of what's going on because sports is back. They're not going to stop it. And all we can do is ask people as much as possible to try to stay safe as much as possible. But if you were given your chance, I know we talk about sports. If we were given your chance, would you put them in a bubble? Would you let them stay in their own stadiums? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it comes down to the medical situation that they want to look at. I mean, when you look at these professional leagues, they have a say-so in how they play. If they want to go into a bubble, then that's what they'll do.
Yep.
But, regardless of whether they go into a bubble, they have to figure out what to do with the Toronto Raptors because Prime Minister Trudeau is not going to allow the NBA players to keep coming in and out of the country.
Yeah, well, that's very well said, Big C. We'll see what happens. As we close out, I don't know what's going on in politics because I've been away from the social media for the past, hour or so as we're doing our show. But the Democrats have always relied on the black vote. They've always gotten it. But black Americans have always gotten the shaft when it seems to political power and having a seat at power, especially under the POTUS administration. But POTUS is still trying to fight this thing through the court. It's like the writing's on the wall. But I want to get Big C's thoughts in the final minute. What advice would you give to an agenda? I know Ice Cube was talking about some platinum plan with Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump is talking about he needs to borrow $500 from somebody, yet he's telling Ice Cube is going to make black Americans rich. What would you say to the Senate and also the next president about what would be the agenda for black Americans? I know they did a lot down in Georgia to make sure when they built the airport, Jackson-Hartsville, and also a lot of other things, black Americans they got some of the contracts, Big C. If you're giving 80% of your vote to a Democratic Party, what would you ask for, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can always ask for things, but as long as the Republicans are controlling the Senate, then not much is going to get done. You have to look at how politics work. The president, all he can do is ever sign executive orders. The Senate has to approve anything that he wants to do. Right now, we have a Republican Senate and potentially a Democratic president.
Yeah.
And until that Republican Senate decides that they want to do for those Democrats as much as they wanted to do for themselves, you're going to have those angry old white men just sitting there saying, we're not going to help them out. It's not about how you give your vote out to a particular party. It's who's sitting in power.
Yeah.
And when you have a party sitting in power that has done everything that they can to obstruct black people in this country called America, Charlton, through voter obstruction, voting regulations, the stripping of the Voting Rights Act, Charlton, that's been done by the Republicans, okay?
Yeah.
And so it's not about the president. As I told you, Donald Trump was a stooge. He sit there as a puppet. Mitch McConnell is the puppet master, and he's still the Senate majority leader. And so as long as he's in that position, blacks ain't getting a damn thing in America.
Well, that may change if they can flip the Senate. There's still a lot going on, and everybody just stay voting. The black vote and the black athlete that is stomped on the microphones of every microphone in front of them, you did not shut up and dribble. I'm so proud of black men. And as black women, I think there's a lady down in Georgia that did a lot to help get the black vote, the population that's been downtrodden and overlooked, that got a lot of people to work together. Abrams she did a fabulous job getting a lot of people out to vote, and it's all fair and love and war. Believe in democracy, put the country first. Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, with the Pac-12 kicking off this weekend, and they had an amended 6-game schedule, with 2 games being canceled this weekend, Charlton, means no team in the conference can play more than 5 games, so they've automatically been eliminated from the college football playoffs as a conference. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They don't eliminate anything, Charlton. They make sure everyone is taken care of.
And Big C, we voters out here on the West Coast, we're not going to let you Southerners take away our wins, Big C. We will get our champion into the college football playoffs, and we're going to win the game. And you can win the game, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please just pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.